Welcome, Starseed. Today we are going to discuss a documentary, I guess. It's a documentary?
It's a documentary.
Okay.
It's a documentary.
It's
a little more than a documentary.
A little more than a documentary, but it's extraordinary, the Stan Romaneck story.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah. And it's something that I have been following for if you know nothing about this, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things about it. But around 2000 is when it started, and when I was younger, back, and I was probably in middle school, I would get on the computer and stuff, and he had a website, and he called it the Peeping Tom Ghost, and it was this footage that you really couldn't see. Because he was for one reason or another, supposedly he couldn't release it because it was under investigation to prove it was real, and there might have been possible TV deals and stuff like that going on with it. So I had been kind of interested in it for I guess a while, and he had stuff on the website, and the documentary goes over this as well, where he was an alien abductee, and got implants and stuff like that, I guess, as you do when you're an alien.
Like you do,
like you do.
Stuff and things.
But then I never really heard much more about it. Kind of forgot about it entirely until it actually, I believe it was on Netflix for a while. It's not on Netflix anymore, but it's actually free to watch on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because we did a refresher. Because it came out in 2013, but it didn't go to Netflix till I think 2016 or 2017. I think it was when I watched it.
Yeah.
It was 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was probably 2017. And so I just kind of wanted to make a video about that because it's kind of an outlandish story.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, you can.
So basically, this guy from 2000 to about 2013 or so, he keeps having visitations from aliens and orbs, and he claims that he has been abducted numerous times. He had torn an ACL, and they healed his ACL. He supposedly helped procreate all these alien children as well.
Right.
Just a bunch of really strange stuff. But he's got a ton of video footage of a lot of the things too, which is kind of interesting. You don't get that a lot.
It's very interesting, and it's also weird too because obviously it might be a hoax, but there is so much evidence and just so much obscure stuff and stuff that's documented, as well. And there's a lot, especially in the documentary, there's multiple people that are all claiming the same thing, and it kind of makes you wonder. And it's well, if it was fake, why are all these other people sticking with it? I mean, his wife, because supposedly this started when he was trying to make a video for, saw people pulled on the side of the road. He's what's going on? This is in Colorado, I think he said it was, and he went, and there's a whole bunch of people looking at a UFO. And so he kind of videotaped it and sent it to her, and she, thought it was cool, and he was just kind of whatever. And then, I think he said his first encounter was basically he went downstairs, and his sister he heard knocking on the door, and the sister had opened the door, and I guess there's just aliens just standing outside the door, just kind of being there doing alien stuff. And that was one of the first encounters he had. But then there's other stuff that's covered in the documentary, and I mean there's photographic evidence of it and stuff, and he has stuff recorded of. He had, I forget exactly what was wrong with his leg. It was a torn ACL.
It was an ACL. He tore his ACL. He fell off the roof or something like that. And he woke up, and he had these 5 or 6 holes in his leg, in a straight line.
Mm-hmm.
And his brace was missing and all this stuff because he was scheduled for surgery a couple days after this or whatever. And he gets up and he's walking around, and his wife's like, wait a second, you're walking around, what's going on? And turns out his leg was completely healed. His knee was fine. But he has these weird marks on the back of his leg.
Right. And, like, I mean, these are multiple people that are coming forth, you know, not just him saying this happened, but, like, his doctor, because he says how he called the doctor and said, oh, hey, I don't need surgery anymore. And they're like, okay, bullshit, and then he basically goes in for a consultation and they're like, what the hell,
Yeah.
So it's just, and there's a lot here, and there's some other stuff that's towards the end of it that gets weird too. We'll talk about that if you don't know anything about this story. But, it's just the fact that, like, I don't see any particular reason why they would want to be lying about this stuff.
Right.
Because, like, outside of just the fame, I guess, it's got him. Like, they just live in, like, a fairly small house. Mm-hmm. Like, there's nothing special about these people, and, like, you're just going to get ridiculed, So, the big first piece of evidence, the one I was talking about, the Peeping Tom video, is basically, essentially, he thought he had. And I encourage you to go watch this documentary. It's very interesting, at least the first 40 minutes. It's very weird how the documentary is edited. Like, the first 40 minutes is footage evidence, just back to back to back. And then the last, like, hour or so of it is just them talking about all of the previous stuff that was shown. I don't know why they didn't break it up better, but this isn't a review on the documentary. We're talking about the stuff, but it's just really weird it's edited. So if you just want to see the stuff we're talking about, just see it. I guess it kind of works out because you can just go watch, like, the first 40 minutes and you just see all of the compiled evidence. And there's a crap ton. But one of the big things is like literally there is a video of an alien looking into his house.
Like literally like doing this, like looking in his window and popping back down.
Yeah,
it's
up,
kind of funny. It's kind of
over
cute.
The windowsill. Yeah.
Because the way he's doing it, he's just kind of like this, and then he sees somebody coming, and he pops down, and then he pops back up, and it's really strange, but actually, it's really neat, too.
It is, and it's just kind of like, and the reason behind that video is he thought he had a peeping Tom, and he set the camera up because they had motion sensors outside, and so he set the camera up and then left the room, hoping that, it would come or whatever, and then he kind of came, saw something go down real quick, and then upon reviewing the footage, there was that. The other thing I think that is like probably the most outlandish footage in this entire thing is essentially the story goes that his kids were having stepson was having a sleepover, and he saw what he thought was his son running around the house, and so he got a camera out to like kind of go catch him, I guess, and there's just straight up alien standing outside the door.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, not like blurry footage, like an alien that just kind of looks at him and then slowly goes away.
Yeah.
A full alien, body and all. And there's a lot of other stuff too, but like that footage is just kind of like, I mean, and it's also from a while ago too, so it's definitely not CG. It might be a puppet, but I mean, it blinks and stuff, and like if it is a puppet, it's a good fake. But so these two pieces of evidence are like super, like kind of ridiculously strong, and you would think it's weird to me that no one talks about it, and I think there's a reason why, and again, we'll get into that later, because it's really convenient, but then there's all this other stuff, like just weird shit, like the thing with there's like a crop circle type thing in his yard.
Yeah, it shows up twice. It happens once. He had a camera on the side of his house, and it basically got like destroyed, and there was a crop circle underneath it of dead grass, and then there was like a clean area on his siding for that one. And then another time, his wife actually looks out the window, and she's like, there's this circle out in the middle of the yard. And again, another weird crop circle, just dead grass in the middle of his yard.
Yeah, and the weird thing was these people just randomly showed up to replace the siding. He tried to get a hold of the landlord, who was on vacation, so he let him. And then afterwards, the landlord's like, I did not have anybody replace the siding, and they wouldn't let Stan keep any of the siding as where that light was, where the camera was.
Yeah. That was weird. Yeah.
And I guess they looked up the company. I forget what it was called. They say to the documentary, but they looked
like
it up.
Bob's Siding or something like generic like
out
that.
of some state,
like
but
Bob's
apparently they couldn't actually find any
like
evidence of this business even existing.
Yeah.
So, the connotations there that there was some kind of like government job to remove because maybe there was like some kind of radiation or who knows what.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of pictures of like creepy little alien faces that he gets. Another claim that he has is that they are basically stealing his seed to make star children, little alien hybrid children with this other lady.
Yeah, and he gets like these phone calls from these children, and it's like, first it starts off with like these, like this almost, it kind of reminds me of like, when people have those boxes that they type in and it talks for them. It sounds like that, but it had like a female British accent, and it was talking to him through this thing, and it was like, like, don't be afraid, Starseed, and it was just really robotic and strange like that. And they start getting these phone calls, and then occasionally they'll get these phone calls, or they'll be talking on the phone to somebody else, and they'll get this intercepted call of like this little kid talking like, "Hi, Daddy, I miss you." It's like really strange calls, and yeah, they keep calling him Starseed. So I guess that's what you would call somebody if they were birthing your
Right.
alien children.
Yeah, and there, and I mean, there's things like where like his like the pill bottles, whatever, like melted and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's just so much coming in this documentary, and there is obviously some skepticism out there as well. We'll kind of get into that here now. This is according to like the Wikipedia page that he was asked to do a lie detector test based on the footage of the peeping Tom ghost. And I guess he did. He agreed to take it, and he did fail it. But his excuse for failing it was, I guess he says he has some medical condition that would make him fail. I don't know. He's had apparently like multiple implants and just operations done by aliens and all of that. Because it says in 2009 in an interview on ABC Primetime, Romaneck said he had physical evidence of an abduction experience of way of an alien implant in his leg. When a medical test for the implant was requested, Romaneck said it had disappeared. So, there's two sides to every coin there, too. But the thing is, though, is it's kind of like, I don't know, what kind of makes me want to believe the story a little bit, at least some of it, is just because, again, like the amount of people that kind of like back him and are willing to go forward for it. And just the amount of evidence he had. Like, I mean, the amount that he has is like he's created this whole narrative if it is a hoax. It's like this giant, it's probably one of the biggest hoaxes ongoing for, well, I don't know if he's still going on with it, which I will get to that in just a second, but like from, 2000 to 2013, so 13 years of just dedicating so much of your life to just faking random evidence and stuff.
Right.
And I mean,
that's a long time to do that.
And maybe there was merit to doing it. Maybe it did get him money in some way. I mean, we don't know all the back workings of what happened in that.
Yeah.
But it seems odd. And then, of course, so the big thing is, in February 13th of 2014, he was arrested so he turned himself in. So basically what happened is he had charges of possessing child pornography. And he was also, he had a charge for distributing it. He was found not guilty for distributing it, but found guilty for actually possessing it. And of course, he pleaded not guilty, saying that he wasn't actually in possession of it, that it was pretty much implanted on his computer. Now, it's funny, the end of the documentary does mention this as well, and they even say, like, before you jump to conclusions, okay, this is a thing that he's done, that shows you all of these different news article clippings of people that have been falsely accused and been proven to be falsely accused by either viruses or just basically being planted to get them in trouble. Yeah. And if, let's say, this stuff, the footage he has is real, all of this stuff is real, what is the easiest way for the government to shut someone down? I mean, they just put this on your computer, find you guilty, because also, I mean, it states on here, on the Wikipedia thing, so August 8th, 2017, Romaneck was found guilty of felony possession of child pornography, but not guilty of distribution of it. His sentencing was held December 14th, 2017, and he was sentenced to serve 2 years in Lemire County Community Corrections halfway house and to register as a sex offender. So for one, that's going to take away any credibility someone might have. That's like the biggest thing. If you do it, everyone hates you, right? If you want to shut someone up and you want to make anything that comes out of their mouth, I mean, that's like the number one thing. I mean, there's a million terrible things you could do. But if it's that, if it has to do anything bad with children, and I don't want to keep saying those two words together because YouTube bots, but anything like that, I mean, come on, I mean, let's be honest, if you know someone that has been convicted of something like that, you want to stay away from it. Anything they say, you're just going to be like, whatever, dude, you're crazy, obviously.
No thanks.
But he reported immediately to jail to wait for space to become available. So, I mean, he went right away when he was, he just went there, didn't like really defute that. And then as a sex offender, he is now subject to 10 years of intensive supervised probation, not allowed to use computers or electronic devices unmonitored. not allowed to contact children under the 18 without approval from the community corrections program. I feel like that'd be normal. But I like that also right there, not allowed to use computers or electronic devices. So it's almost like they're like cutting any communication he might have had away from continuing to show the things that are happening to him.
Yeah.
So, maybe everything is real. Maybe he is a person that has done these things, or maybe, the government just shut him up real quick.
Yeah.
Because,
Never know.
Because, it would.
Oh, yeah.
It would.
You can't talk about it if you can't use the devices you were using to communicate about it in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it is conflicting. Like, there's things in there that it is a little hard to believe. Just come on. Footage of an alien just standing outside of your door.
Yeah. Like, kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. And just to think that there's a possibility, that it could be real. And I'm sure people out there have tried to debunk it, and I'm sure they have found ways to debunk it. I know they have for the Peeping Tom ghost, but it's just like, just because you can fake something doesn't always mean something's faked.
Right.
Like, especially in today's day and age, like through either CG or practical, like, there's a lot of ways to fake something, and it does suck because it makes it really hard to trust anything.
Yeah.
But I also want to, it goes both ways, where just because someone can fake someone doesn't mean another person did.
Right.
And unfortunately, without being able to weave our way into his mind, there's really no way to 100% know what the truth is.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of things in the paranormal field, I guess. I don't know, are you inclined to believe the story, or are you kind of on the fence? What do you think?
The evidence is just phenomenal, and it's really hard to not believe him just because of all the different things that he had. It wasn't just like those 2 videos of the aliens.
Right.
It was like these videos of these orbs flying around his house and actually flying through a wall and leaving like ectoplasm and stuff.
And then the shadow people, I forgot about that.
The shadow people in the house. One of them was holding a remote control. Like, that was weird. That's something, how do you fake a big shadow holding a device in its hand? That's weird.
There's definitely ways to do it, but it's just kind of like, and the thing is too, Photoshop's been around for a while, but a lot of these photos are pretty old.
Yeah. And
like the CG stuff, you can really tell a lot of times if it's a CG thing, if it's older.
Especially from like 2000.
Yeah.
Like
some of these things, like the Peeping Tom thing, I think was filmed in like 2008, I think is when they said it was released. Well, that's when he appeared and started talking about it. So it's probably 2007, 2006 when he actually filmed it. I forget the exact date he might have said, but
yeah, I don't know. I'm inclined to believe it just because of all the different pieces of evidence that he has.
And I think at this point, especially when you watch a documentary and you see the amount of stuff there is, and there's also a whole bunch of sessions where he's going and like a hypnotherapist person is getting him to regress his memories.
Yeah.
And it's just like, if it is fake. So I think there's like 3 scenarios. 2 are more likely and 1's unlikely. One of the more likely ones is that it is real. The other one I would say is that he believes it to be real, but it is not. Like, he has created such a fabricated thing in his mind, and this happens with some people that are pathological liars.
Yeah.
But the thing that kind of leads me to maybe not there is because of the fact that, like, why on earth would his wife go through with this? Like,
right.
Unless maybe she's the seed. Maybe she, like, because, it did start after they met,
And he showed her that video. And
right.
Maybe, maybe if you want to take that conspiracy, maybe she's the one that said, hey, let's do this.
Right.
Let's just start some sort of phenomenon. And maybe that just kind of, fueled it.
People will do crazy things, to get famous. But, like, this seems so aggressive.
Yeah. In
the approach. But, I'm looking at this. He was on Larry King, Coast to Coast AM. That's like a, podcast type of thing. He's been on so many things. I had heard of him. So, maybe the incentive is there. But the third thing I was going to say is that, it is just fake. But I would say if it is going to be fake, and that would be the most, just 100% completely fake, and they're just aware of it, is, to me, the most unlikely thing But same with the wife, I would say if it was, maybe that's kind of where it came. Is like she almost convinced me to do it. But they also have like kids that aren't alien children as well.
Right.
You know, I never seen them speak on anything like when they're on. So I mean, it's weird.
Yeah.
There's a lot. And we're curious to know, if you're a listener or watching this on YouTube, what you think, leave a comment on the YouTube video or send us a message, whatever you want to do, what your personal opinions are on it, because I am curious to see what other people think. But to me, it just seems like such a long, like just tedious thing to do.
Yeah, it seems like so much work for just a little bit of stardom, like.
Right, and especially this is like the kind of stardom that most people would stray away from for the most part.
Yeah.
It's one thing to be like a popular paranormal researcher, like I did air quotes for that if you're listening. Like for example, like Zach Bagans or something like that, because you have your own show and you're getting lots of money. Okay,
yeah.
Whatever. But to just be someone that's like, oh yeah, aliens like to get me. But then there's other, and there's other things we need. There's so much in this documentary, like how basically people attacked him, said, told him to stop talking about the aliens and beat him up. And there's police reports. Obviously, the police reports don't state for sure that these people said that, but there are people that called the police because they saw Stan Romaneck getting beat up by these people, and the van took off that they were in, and so there's that kind of thing, and it's like, what's the truth there? There's so many facets to the story, and I think it's pretty extraordinary, and it amazes me that no one talks about it anymore. Like, it used to be talked about more, but I think the whole child thing really did kind of shut it down.
Yeah.
And if we are going down the route that the government implanted, and whoever, I guess I should say, not necessarily the government, but planted evidence on the computers, like I said, it's a super effective way, and it worked. And it definitely worked, I guess.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and he's definitely not the first person to have had things like this happen to him, but I would say out of all the stuff I know of, it's probably the most. It's like all of the things, like
all of the things.
All of the things.
Like I watch those shows where they show like all the different UFO videos and stuff, and you have like one person like, oh yeah, this is one video that I saw, or you have a person that like occasionally sees the same alien lights out in the, out on their patio and stuff like that. But this is like every kind of alien video you've ever seen, just all happening to this one person.
Right.
And it's
plus
just like,
some paranormal sprinkled in there too, outside of it. Like some ghosts, or, well, not even ghosts, I guess, but shadow people.
Yeah, because he originally thought it was ghosts. And he had like paranormal investigators come out and investigate, because he was having the shadow people and the orbs and all this stuff, and then it started growing into the gray aliens and all the other, the children and all this other stuff. But it was like, it's a lot. It's really like, to have that happen to one person is just incredible.
It really is. And the other thing is, like, and obviously anyone can be a liar. That's the thing about liars. When they say you're telling them that, if a liar tells you they don't lie, you never know, right? That doesn't, But listening to him talk and everything I've seen him on this, plus other things I've watched him on, like, he seems pretty grounded. Like, you can tell, like, when, there's that meme of the aliens guy from the History Channel. Like, they're eccentric people, and when you listen to him talk, you're like, eh. But, like, this guy talks with a lot of doubt in himself. Mm-hmm. Like, especially at first, how he basically was, like, refusing to believe it. So either he's really fabricated a great story and, really thought of every facet and how to make himself sound believable, or he is just believable. But, you listen to him talk, like, he doesn't sound like someone that would actually be telling you all this stuff. You know what I mean? Because, like, he just kind of sounds like anyone you might meet off the street that doesn't, get abducted by aliens. Because even, he has all these things where he's like, I wasn't even, like, half the time with the evidence he's got, he was just trying to live his life. And it really does kind of sound like when him and his wife say these things, that they were just doing that, trying to live a life. And the aliens just kept getting in the way, essentially. So, I don't know. It's a really compelling story. And it kind of sucks because I don't think we'll probably ever get much more because of, what he's accused of. And we'll probably never get any more evidence from him again. if there is more evidence, if it is real or anything like that, because again, he has effectively been silenced for what I'm sure will be the rest of his life. It will always haunt him. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? If it's true, good. But if it's not, it really sucks that that's happening to an innocent person. But,
right.
You know. No. But I don't know, Kim, do you have any closing comments, though?
I have to agree with you. Like, if it's real, it's fantastic. It's probably the best stuff I've ever seen for any kind of alien things. And, like, I'm not a big, like, I've never really actually seen anything, like, alien-wise, like any lights in the sky or anything like that. So I'm, like, kind of still, like, on the fence about the whole thing. But, I mean, seeing this stuff that's happened to him, it's like, wow, like, okay, maybe there is, you know, something to it. But if it is, like, just a really, really elaborate hoax, it's a really, really well done one.
Yeah, one that spanned a good chunk of his life.
Yeah.
And I think it also, like, you kind of want to believe something like this when you look at it, and it's like, I think it's a little gut-wrenching to think that someone would go to these great lengths just to trick everyone. Like, it's one thing to make, like, a fake Bigfoot video or one fake video here and just put it on YouTube to get views, but to dedicate a portion of your life,
like 13
your
years,
family, not just your life, your family's life to it.
Yeah.
And also
Family,
have all these
friends,
experts.
Experts. Yeah, there's a bunch of experts in there. Just.
And I also think, to touch on what you said, I think that pretty much most rational people do believe in the existence of aliens. It's just that not that many people believe that they've actually visited Earth.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely other life out there. I mean, there's so many planets. I mean, there's so much in space that we couldn't even fathom to see, let alone get to. Like, the thought that there's just, we're it, like, is kind of an insane concept. So, I mean, in a way, like, I kind of hope it is true, just because, you know, again, I think it's gross to think of a person going that far just to dupe people, but, yeah. But, what do you
think?
Yeah, what do you think? You know, have you watched this? If not, like I said, I do encourage at least the first 40 minutes. It does get a little boring towards the end.
I mean, if you want to hear him talk about it a little bit more in depth,
I mean, I think it's worth watching through, especially if you're actually interested in the subject. But if you're just very lightly interested and just want to see the footage, then I guess it does work out. The documentary isn't paced well, and all the footage is in the first 40 minutes, because there's a whole bunch of footage and photographs and weird, and not even footage, like a lot of just weird audio clips of, like, these people talking to him and stuff. And it's, even if you don't believe some of the images, like, there's actually a thing where, like, an alien supposedly, like, took selfies with the camera. I forgot about that.
The alien selfie.
And even if this stuff is straight up fake, it's kind of creepy, and it does make for a good narrative.
For sure.
But, yeah. Alright, guys, but that's going to do it for this episode. As Kim was saying before, just make sure you comment and let us know what you think about it. If you're watching on YouTube, if you listen to the podcast, you can go to the YouTube channel and comment on there. And make sure you like the video. It helps us out a lot. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. There's a new episode out every Friday, usually about 7. The last one was at 8 o'clock, but that's because it was a premiere, and I wanted it a little bit later so I can make sure I was on it to communicate with people. And we plan on doing more of those in the future. We plan on doing more interviews as well, so if you're in the paranormal field in any ways, whether anything that has to do with creeps, creatures, or haunts, so paranormal or even just a haunted house, anything that has to do with creepy stuff in general, you can reach out to us and let us know, and we'll find time to have you on the show to do like an interview with you. Yeah, I think that about does it, and we will talk to you guys in the next one.
Bye.